But back to the movies. One I know that I told you about earlier that you didn't even hear about, because Sony own the rights to the Valiant universe and are going to be making the movies. Bloodshot. Don't know when it's going to be happening, but it's going to be happening.
It should be cool.
Yeah,
Very cool.
And with the success of the way the R-rated stuff is going, they're not going to be clean with it.
Yeah, there's no need.
And you can't.
Yeah, not with Bloodshot. No.
There's no way.
It's got to be mucky. It's got to be. Yeah, because the thing is, if they're going to make Bloodshot, eventually they're going to make Man of War.
Yes.
Yeah, and they could carve themselves out a niche here of just, mind you, look, like saying that we were on about Faith.
Yes.
But Faith is like the perfect PG-13 movie, you know, for sort of. I don't want to sound.
Everyday.
Young ladies,
everyday girls.
Yeah, I mean, because this is like you know, taking the sort of power. It is kind of like, you know, average everyday girl. She's a little bit fuller figured young lady,
like your typical skimpy.
Yeah, and she's like a proper geek, proper fangirl.
Yeah.
Who has powers. So it really is. It's and the book is awesome. It's a really clever book. It's really funny. It's really good. It pokes a lot of fun at itself, which is great. I think it really is. I think it's their standout ongoing book.
It would really work. It would do really well because it's the same genre as a lot of stuff that's coming out, but it's different and separate. I think everything else.
I think there's a lot more to be. There's a lot more to what's the word I'm looking for? You know, there's a lot more people out there that are going to be able to relate to Faith than any other, you know, superhero. So it's the perfect superhero movie or comic book movie, whatever, however you want to call it, for, you know, sort of for teenage girls in particular, but teenagers anyway. Like, you know, I've read the first book, thought it was great, you know. It does have more to say to, you know, that age and that sort of particular group. But it's a funny book, and it's you know, and it's
great read by itself without having to read it for, you know, why it was put out originally to be different and give ordinary looking people somebody to relate to in comparison, because there's a lot of, you know, I love comic book movies, but it's difficult to relate to them in some ways because, you know.
Originally Spider-Man was supposed to be. And Steve Ditko first designed Spider-Man. A lot of Spider-Man fans will know this. He purposely, so when you see the first, I forget when Steve Ditko, it wasn't that 14, 16, or something like that.
Yeah.
But when Ditko Spider-Man looks like a skinny, nerdy kid, he's, you know, it was Jack Kirby later on, and don't get me wrong, I adore Jack Kirby. Yeah. But Jack Kirby drew everyone up in the honest. You know, everyone looked amazing.
Yeah.
But that was just his style. That was his style. You know, can't be knocked for it. I mean, there is nobody does Thor like Kirby.
No.
Nobody does Thor like Kirby.
Tries they might.
Yeah. But Steve Ditko's Spider-Man was that way for a reason. You know. In the early inception when they talked about it, because I think I'm safe to say, and it's common knowledge now, that he had a little bit more. He was, you know, pretty much came up with the concept of Spider-Man. Stan Lee kind of came in a little bit late, you know, but I think the design was already there. I think that's pretty much established now.
Yeah.
That Ditko had already designed Spider-Man. And he was always supposed to be skinny, everyday, nerdy kid. That's what Steve Ditko wanted him to look like, because he realised. But kudos, I mean, but you know, Stan Lee recognised the brilliance of this.
Yes.
You know, he didn't sort of, oh no, he saw the point, and he was like, okay, and that's how the flawed hero came about.
Made him, you know, wrote him so awkward and
and that became the Marvel Age.
Yeah.
You know, Silver Age, the Marvel Age was done on, you know, it may have been ushered in by the Fantastic Four, but the tone and the flawed hero and the that all came about as a result of more or less of Spider-Man. That it really became because they realised off the back, that the kids were reading it because they related to the kid, and sales went huge, went ridiculous, and that's when they realised, okay, we've got something here. They don't want to see Adonis. They don't want to see a millionaire with a teenage ward. They don't want to see an alien Kryptonian at the time. They didn't. So they did something a little different. The DC stuff didn't come back in until sort of late sort of Silver Age, close to the Bronze Age. So, it's worth noting that this is in the tradition of that, really. And Valiant have successfully come up with Fate. It's a great read.
Yeah.
Great story. And I think it would make it awesome.
Yeah, it would.
Really would.
It would be a good family movie that you could have a laugh with and just,
If they kept it as sort of like... Because she's awkward, but in a kind of fun way. She's not like in a tragic way.
Yeah.
But like she doesn't really give that much of a rat's backside on the fact that she's not... a size, whatever, this, that, and the other. And if they, as long as they kept that, it'd be funny. She is a fangirl. She's and she knows she is. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely.
A massive digression.
Yeah, but
massive Steve.
It's all fun.
It's going on.
So moving on to a few things. Digressing from a little away from the comics and stuff, a little bit about some anime and manga.
Good.
Just been released the trailer for a Netflix original anime of a classic Nintendo game, Castlevania. And it looks brutal. It's not for kids. It is going to be awesome. Trailer starts, and it starts with an original NES. Opens it up, puts the Castlevania game in, starts loading up, and cuts into the trailer.
Awesome.
Unbelievable.
My boy,
it looks good.
My boy will like. Well, he's just at the age now where I kind of let him watch this.
Maybe not so much. Maybe not so much of this.
I don't. The violence, as long as it's sort of like cartoon violence.
Yes.
And sexual violence and sex stuff. I don't know. But because he started reading some of the books, like he likes some of the books. He actually loves Tokyo Ghoul. He loves Tokyo Ghoul. He's like, this is amazing.
New season shortened. Can't wait for that.
But I'm like, this is great.
Castlevania.
This sounds awesome, man.
Yeah.
What's not to love? It's Castlevania.
Well, that's just it. My personal hope is this will do really well, and Netflix will go. Maybe they'll do a Legend of Zelda.
Or maybe they'll make a live version of Castlevania.
Yes, very much so.
But there's Simon and the heroes.
Yeah. Let us know.
Blank.
I'm sure somebody will fill us in.
Simon something.
Yeah, somebody will fill us in. New season of Attack on Titan's full under swing. Unbelievable.
Huge.
Love it, absolutely love it. They're sticking to the manga so well, which is because I'm up to date with the manga, so I know what's coming. And I was just really excited for the last couple of episodes because there was a massive, really, really good fight scene between Titan Air and the Armored Titan.
They really know what they're doing with Titan.
Well, yeah, they delayed the season because they needed the manga to catch up so they could follow the story. That's what I like about it. A great thing about anime, they don't care. Sometimes they can go 2 to 3 years without a new season because they're waiting for the manga, because they want to be true to the story.
Yeah.
They don't want to just hodgepodge it and
it's a different culture. They are much more comfortable with their property.
Yeah.
There's no rush. There's no pressure.
Getting it right is more important than getting it out.
And you got to give them so much so much respect for that, because they're not ready until they're ready.
Definitely. New season of ReZero has been announced. It's going to be delayed. I don't know whether or not they're waiting for the manga on that, but that's a good Elsewhere story. Basically, the main character wakes up in a world, fantasy world, magic, beasts, unsure what's happening. First episode is like a double episode. It's almost a big replay of itself, because every time he dies, he goes back to a reset point earlier on, so we can go back and change what's happening.
Sounds like fun on a button.
Which is different. It's different because there's some things it happens, and then because he leaves it so long, when he dies and goes back to a set point, you can't change it because there's only certain periods you can go through.
Sounds interesting.
But it is quite good. Some bits of it, it'll get you in the feels. It will. But that's what I like about anime. They're really, really good at getting you in the feels and getting certain points across about how people should act towards other people.
Spirits of the Way.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Spirits of the Way is one of those in the West, we've sort of, the boundaries have been pushed very few times with animation. I mean, Pixar are doing great things. You can't discount Pixar. I'm not going to stand here and go, oh, we're too good for Pixar. They do great shit.
Yeah, they do. They do.
I'm trying not to swear. Actually.
Incredibles 2. Cannot wait for that. Cannot wait.
Yeah. So, the great thing is, he has to look goofy when he goes to watch him. I've got children, so I can say, if the kids want to watch it.
I don't care.
I think I would as well, even if I didn't have kids.
I don't care.
But I think with regards to anime, it's been seen as a legitimate form of art and expression for a lot longer. I mean, if you watch like the original Gundam unit from the first season, which is like 1979.
Yeah.
I mean, and you watch that, the only thing that's really seems that dated in that is the music.
Yeah.
Other than that, it looks like something from the 90s or something.
Definitely, so ahead of its time.
It's massively ahead of its time, and they always have been. The Japanese stuff comes over and just looks
phenomenal.
Well, I mean, it's pushed the way that the West does stuff as well with animation.
Yeah.
I mean, again, how many times can we go back to Akira? Yeah, just look. Akira is gorgeous. It came out in 1987.
Some of the movies from around that time, 1995. My third favourite movie, never mind genre, period, Ghost in the Shell, the original animated movie. Unbelievable.
That's for me. I agree, but with Akira, Akira's one of my favourite.
Yeah. The problem is though, when you get films like that come out, and they start off a genre style, everything else is compared to it, and nothing else can hold can't get there, which is a little unfair to what comes after it, but.
Yeah, we were talking earlier as well. They finally got around to making a live-action version. But what I'm going to do is with this, I might slice it up and put it on as pieces. Yeah. I know you're still there, but slice it up and put it into pieces.
And make it slide.
So, one might be put directly onto the anime page.
Yeah.
So, but we were talking about Ghost in the Shell earlier, and we're saying that the biggest shame of it is the fact that it's sort of like the live action version is that it missed its window with its content. It kind of like, although it wouldn't have looked so pretty because we have the technology to make it look gorgeous now, unfortunately it was based in an era that we've kind of left behind. So even though it looks amazing and stuff like that, anyone who's into the genre will still look at it and feel like it's aged, even though it hasn't. And that's a shame, It's a shame because it's something that they can't control.
Yeah.
It's just all of that. What we call it, so like a tech punk, cyberpunk, that kind of thing. We've kind of left it behind a little bit, and until it comes back round, that film will always feel a little bit dated.
Yeah, but saying that, there's the new Blade Runner this year as well.
So we might get a
resurgence.
A resurgence of this whole cyberpunk. So I remember like the early 90s in particular, the early to mid 90s, and cyberpunk stuff that was coming out in anime. Yeah. Just brilliant, all the mech stuff and that. Yeah, it was awesome. Such great stuff.
AD Tank Police.
Appleseed. I still love it. Appleseed's still one of my favourites.
Have you seen any of the new movies and stuff that they did?
I can't.
Like Appleseed Alpha?
I can't get to grips with the computer animated.
No, it's done so well.
I'll try it again.
Appleseed Alpha, watching it, until they actually had characters turn up on the screen, I couldn't tell that it wasn't live action because the
I've
background is so done so well.
Again, Japanese. Yeah, they're ahead of us
because they've got the new animated Resident Evil just about to hit with Chris and Leon.
Well, this is a thing that's been. This is a thing that's tried and tested. I mean, this is not something that new. This is something, they've been doing this, the computer-generated movies for the last few years, and they've been pushing on and on and on and pressing it. I mean, not all have been hits, though. I think there was one of the Final Fantasy movies that wasn't great and got a bit of stick. But it didn't deter them. They just did it better.
The Final Fantasy movie that was slated was the Hollywood one.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see. I didn't.
Because there's
I'm not that much of a fan.
They've just done Final Fantasy 15. That's really good, and there's a great thing about that as well is you get the bonus. They did a 6-episode anime. You get that on the bonus, which is really good. But the be-all and end-all for the Final Fantasy ones is the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. Unbelievable movie.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And this is the thing is it's a new, well, I say it's a new playground. It's not a new playground. The Japanese have been doing this for 30 years, nearly 40 years. They've been banging out animation that is as good,
groundbreaking,
groundbreaking, and as good as any live action movie.
Yeah, especially story content stuff because they do. It's not just big
Ninja
flashy
Scroll.
images. Yeah,
Ninja Scroll. If you haven't seen Ninja Scroll, Ninja Scroll.
Guyver.
The elbow blades.
Yeah. Brilliant. But there's the new film that's getting a limited release over here as well. 2 coming out. There's the continuation of the fairy tale story, the movie that's coming out shortly. Limited release, which is really frustrating because it's just like the cinemas try and get to them. It's a pain. Because they're really obscure and out of the way and difficult. And then another one which has been touted as the best animated movie in Japan of all time, A Silent Voice.
Do you know what we need to do? We need to speak to Cineworld about possibly
screening some of the stuff. Yeah.
And this is what you can do this with Cineworld. There's a plug there, Cineworld.
They can. They're open to dialogue.
Yeah, they are. They play lots of. I mean, I worked there for a bit, and we were playing. They were doing. What was it? They did the Beatles. The whole sort of like live thingy show that they were streaming from place to place. They're open to have these obscurities and international movies and stuff like that. That just because they're trying to give something to everybody of everything, and they've got so many screens and stuff like that. And we're in Telford. It's not a big town. It's not a big Cineworld, but there's enough screens for them to sort of say,
we'll put one aside for this.
A weekday will. And so there's always the opportunity that they might play something that's a little bit more obscure. But you watch. Now they're going to say no, and I'm going to come back on the show next week and say,
yeah.
They said no.
And then there's the continuation of Berserk. It's such a good anime. Absolutely brutal. You want a good blood and guts anime? Berserk. Started off as 3 movies, it's like 3 arcs. Then they've carried on with the series continuation, and it's demony type stuff, but not overly, and just
not your Otsuki Doji.
No. It's like a barbarian legion, Roman legion-y type thing.
Sounds like something I could.
You'd get it. You'd really get behind it. Really good.
Because I love my Conan comics. Conan comics are awesome.
It's brutal. The main character's called Guts. Yes, it spills a lot of them to be said. So yeah,
sounds like my type of show.
And then there's Boruto, which is Naruto Next Generation. It's all about the kids. Pretty much along the same vein. There's nothing new. If you enjoyed Naruto, you'll enjoy Boruto. So
I found that Naruto tends to have like, and this is not a criticism because Naruto, it speaks for itself. It's massively popular. But it does tend to have its, even more so than other animes, it has its die-hard fans.
Yeah.
you know, some people
they'll do all the hand signs for the jutsus and stuff. And it's like
Yeah.
going,
what the hell? Yeah, we're sort of mid-range nerds. Do you know what I mean?
that's full on peak.
That's
But there's nothing wrong with that, you know.
Oh, not at all. I appreciate the time you've put into it,
Definitely.
even though I may look a little bit scared at first.
Yeah.
It's just like when you go to the Comic Cons and they're like full cosplay.
Yeah.
And at first you walk past like, what the hell? Next thing you have your photo taken with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, because you know, just because it's not my personal bag, I appreciate the fact that somebody's.
I love cosplay.
Yeah, cosplay. But the fact that somebody's put so much effort into it. Do you know what I mean? You can't, you know.
And honestly, some of the like Japanese girls and Korean girls, stuff like that, cosplayers, find them on Facebook because the stuff that they pull off, it's unbelievable. It's like the costumes are amazing, but then you get like your American cosplayers, stuff like that, and some of them are absolutely fantastic. I follow a lot of cosplayers.
I think we're starting to catch
they
up.
are huge.
I think we're starting to catch up though.
We have some here that are doing really, really well.
Yeah.
I'll give her a plug on here because she's absolutely awesome. It's like I've ordered prints off her. She sends letters and stuff. Her words, she'll stalk you on Facebook, but before she writes the letter, so she knows stuff. Kirsty Johnson, cosplay, unbelievable.
We actually have a customer. We have a couple of customers actually who are great cosplayers, absolutely fantastic cosplayers. Gonna give them a bit of a shout out. Can't remember everyone's name. One's Siobhan McCleary, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other young lady's. Young lady's name, but we see them in the area, and they are both. The one girl, she's walking around. I saw Siobhan first. Siobhan used to come in, you know, in the old shop. She was coming every now and again, and she was banging to like 80s and 90s Teen Titans. So
Yeah.
load up. And she was like, oh, the other girl. Sorry, I forget your name, sweet. She was like, oh, she's around somewhere. We've seen her. She's dressed like female Thor again, which is her favourite cosplay. And she dresses as female Thor, but it is full on, like fur and everything.
Yeah.
And I bumped into her later on in West Midlands MCM, and I said, oh yeah. She goes, yeah, I had to go away for a bit. She was so hot because they rented a room, even though she's a Telford girl, at the Holiday Inn, so they could put all their stuff in. And she had to go off and walk around in the buff for half an hour because she nearly passed out because she's carrying this, you know, because it was hot and she's carrying around this massive.
They're not all skimpy.
And it's like, this is sacrifice, man. The girl nearly passed out.
They do. They do a lot of stuff like that, and so, like, some of them have to get sewn into their costumes before they go to the thingy.
Yeah. So so shout out to you two ladies, and sorry I couldn't remember Siobhan. I think I'm pretty sure Siobhan. Can't remember your friend's name, but you are both excellent cosplayers.
And then one of my favourite of all time, because 90s kid when discovering anime and stuff like that, the sequel to Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. And I must admit, I do prefer watching the sub version to the dub version, because they tend to lose a bit with the sub version.
Yeah, it's horses for courses. I mean, I tend to prefer subs myself, but
it's because of the way they portray the character of Goku, whereas it's like he's out to be this big hero, he can make himself a hero, and he's really not. All he wants is a good fight. He doesn't. Anything else is like anything else that happens is part of the course.
Yeah.
It's not what he's planning on. He just wants a big fight.
I
At the moment, they're just going on the story arc. He's ended up doing like talking in, because you've got the Kais who run different universes or whatever and rule everything, and he's just got them to do a big battle between the universes, and the Supreme Kai, the ruler of everything, so powerful, has said any universe that loses gets erased. And Goku's really happy because it means he gets to fight everybody at their best, and that's all he cares about. He's like, oh yeah, and if you don't win, the universe gets destroyed. As you know, it's like a side thing. So yeah, whatever.
He's coming away.
Yeah, same.
I think some things get lost in translation, and Asian, not just Japanese, but Asian movies in particular seem to get lost in translation. Like my wife really doesn't like to watch some movies. Not that she can't read; she can read very well. She reads books and stuff like that. It's just that she finds she can't stop herself from like focusing on on the subs, and she misses the movie. She starts missing the movie, and it's just a major annoyance for her. And I kind of get where she's coming from, you know. But I think sometimes with Japanese, certainly Korean, you know, the Vengeance trilogy and stuff like that.
Yes.
I remember seeing them first in dub, and it was awful. I don't think it was officially dubbed then.
Yeah.
But you know, it's so much better. And the Ringu as well, like Ringu.
Yeah.
The dialogue, it just isn't as good.
No,
it's not as clever. Yeah, a lot of people say we're pretentious. Fair enough. But I still.
But there's some stuff.
Maybe I am. I still prefer subs.
There's some stuff though, because one of my favourite anime movies, my favourite computer game to movie translation, Street Fighter 2, the animated movie.
Agreed. That's a really good dub.
And what's the annoying thing? I've got the DVD, UK release DVD. The only version out on Blu-ray is the American release. The British dub is better because they don't alter language.
Yeah.
There are some bits in it, the American version going, because I remember the British version, I've seen it so many times, and they were like, they moved, the swear words, but they add impact to what's happening, and it's just like so much better. I prefer the dub to the sub because
I think the
fact that they changed the character's name, like in Japan, it's like Bison's Vega, and stuff like that, so it's just confusing.
I think the American dub was an early one, wasn't it? It was sort of like, you know, before it blew up. Because I remember it was huge for manga, because it was or manga, anime, whatever you want to call it now. We just used to call everything manga back then.
Well, the company who released it is manga.
Yeah, but even the stuff that wasn't manga.
Yeah.
Stuff that wasn't manga intellectual property from the comic books was released through manga. Even if they weren't the studio,
company.
they were distributed. So everything was released through manga, even if it wasn't originally a manga comic book. If you know what I mean. It's kind of like if, kind of like Marvel releasing. Yeah, if Marvel bought up DC property and distributed it, that's made it worse. You know what I mean? But so we called it all manga back then, and you know, there's a few movies that really exploded in the West. I think the first one, I mean, I'm biased, but I definitely think the first one was Akira.
It was Akira, and then that led to Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell. I think Ghost in the Shell was a movie that prolonged it. I think it was starting to die off.
Because that came out in '95.
Yeah, so it was the mid '90s when things were, and it was like a resurgence that brought along with it that whole cyberpunk thing, or it solidified the cyberpunk thing, where you got all the mech and, you know, technology and stuff.
Yeah.
There was a bit of that beforehand, but there was a lot of sort of like fantasy. You had like Fist of the North Star and stuff like that coming out, Devilman.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. But like. That came along, like I think Appleseed was out before that.
The original was, yeah.
The original was out before that, but it was kind of a resurgence on stuff like that. Ghost in the Shell that kind of reaffirmed manga, really. It kind of, popularity sort of waned for a year or two, and then exploded back onto the scene.
And then when it exploded, Channel 4 picked up a load of stuff and made it easily available. Because otherwise, it was difficult to try and get hold of.
It was super difficult.
Honestly, you lot today have got sounding old. You lot today have got no idea how difficult it was to try and get hold of manga.
Sitting up, what time in the morning, waiting.
1 o'clock in the morning, waiting for a new episode.
Yeah. But like ODM 808 as well, and they played it so many times over, and it was like the same. There's only like a limited amount of episodes, and they must have played it like back to back. So they played the series and then played it again. So we were waiting for something new to watch. They just played ODN 808 again, and it was just like, hold on a minute.
Same as Guyver, it's like 12 episodes run, as soon as it's done, start again.
But which they used to sell individual 25-minute episodes for $13.99.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the only way you can get it as well. VHS tape, $13.99, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't know you're born, you kids. Don't know you're born.
But saying that, there's a lot of stuff now that's done really well, like games, like the anime series of Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, we're at a time now where, I mean, we're talking about classic old manga that, like, you know, sort of started. But, you know, let's not take anything away from the fact that there's some really, really good stuff going on at the moment. Really good. I watched one of the recent Vampire Hunter D, one of the newer ones.
Bloodlust.
It might have been Bloodlust. It was really good.
The dub on that's really good because Parasite's voiced by Bender.
John DiMaggio.
Yeah, John DiMaggio. Yeah.
I've actually referenced Bender a couple of times. I don't know if you've noticed. The fun on a bun thing. I love that. Future.
Manga wise, I'm trying to keep up with stuff. There's just so much trying to catch up on. It's like one of my favourites is like started off as a light novel. I've got all the manga. I've seen the show. Is it wrong to try and pick up Girls in a Dungeon? It is just, the title says it all. It's just funny, but it's a good fantasy show as well. You know, it's Jason and the Argonaut style stuff.
Ooh.
They get powers. It's all same like a game. You know, you get gods on Earth, and they're like not just Greek gods. They're every type of god, and they start families, and they give their family members like a Falana, and it builds up. The more you fight, the more experience you get. You level up and stuff like that. And it's just funny, and it's got some really good action scenes, but then it's got a really good core thing about what it means to be family and do the right thing sort of thing, which for me anime really does nail, like doing the right thing for everybody, not just
it's the honour thing with Japanese though, isn't it? It's still a very important part of family life, isn't it?
And it's just but it's done the right way, doing it because you can, and you know it's the right thing to do, sort of thing. Which, to me, a lot of kids' animation these days are just like, you know, I don't get it, and it looks terrible. It does look terrible.
It almost like it's been purposely done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, why does it look this terrible? You know, it's in a time where there's no excuse for it to look that terrible.
It's just laziness.
Yeah.
my opinion is laziness.
It just seems that everything's sort of like stylized in a way that makes it look sort of sloppier.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre, really.
Yeah.
It's because, and again, come back to the Asian style of animation, because it doesn't have that to contend with. If it didn't, it would fuck its game up.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean?
You have no choice.
You would have no choice. Indeed.
That's me alright.
That's you all out
For this episode.
Just got time to mention, I'll just get my little thing here. We've got on the 10th, just let me make 100% sure. On the 10th of June, it is Ice Brighton. Now, we're a little bit biased with Ice, because we're going to be filming there and they're going to be using our footage and stuff like that. We know the guys who organise Ice, which is fantastic. Now, this might sound like what we're like because we're biased, but we're not. This is one of the cons in the country. One of the reasons why we've been in contact with these guys, why we know these guys, why we talk to these guys, Shane in particular, is because it's so good. You know, it's chaps from a town over who've put on this amazing show for the last how many years, and they've now got a secondary show, like a sister show, which is the Brighton one, which is on the 10th. I could not recommend this show enough. There's a lot of great. There's a good few sort of like actual comic conventions that are great. This is my personal favourite. Well, Ice Birmingham. Obviously this is the first Brighton, so we don't really have anything to. But I'm sure it'll be fantastic. Yeah. A quick summary on the guests. We have Hannah Berry, which is Adamantine. I can't say that. and Livestock, which is independent graphic novels, won lots of awards. It's fantastic. We've got David Hine, who's wrote Spawn, X-Men the 198, which I loved, from Decimation, and Silent War, which is another big Marvel.
Yeah.
We've got Dave Gibbons, the Dave Gibbons from Watchmen, Green Lantern, Rogue Trooper. Yeah, this is the co-creator of Watchmen. This is no small feat that he's going to be there. Joe Desi, which is another guy that Collecting Sticks, which is a very cool stylized indie book. Matt Hollingsworth, he's a colorist, and he's worked on Catwoman, Daredevil, Tokyo Ghost. Clint Langley, who's a legend and has done artwork for ABC Warriors and Slain with Pat Mills. Oh, by the way, Pat Mills is going to be there. Only Pat Mills, the driving force behind 2000 AD. This is huge. This is not a small thing. This is Pat Mills. This is the guy who got sick of churning out the same old thing in the 70s, reactionary crap, and just went, you know what, we're going to do things our way. And 2000 AD was born. Without him, no Dread. Without him, no Dread. Without Dread, without no 2000 AD, no Vertigo, and a lot of the sort of darker DC stuff wouldn't have come out.
Sandman.
Yeah, exactly. This had a direct effect, and if you don't believe me, watch the documentary that we mentioned earlier on, 2000 AD. It's Future Shock's the history of 2000 AD, and it has the staff that was working on Vertigo at the time. That actually, there's no sort of bones about it. They go, oh yeah, we poached all of 2000 AD staff because we heard what they were doing over there was revolutionary. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Sales were slumping, and they were like, oh, by the way, have you read this? Slips them a copy of 2000 AD. This is what they're doing in the UK. And it blew their minds. And it was, I forget the lady's name. She was appointed the editor of Vertigo to turn it around.
Yeah.
And basically she recreated 2000 AD, or tried to, within Vertigo.
Yeah.
Pat Mills. You got Ollie Masters, Bob Molesworth, Simon Myers, Ben Oliver. Love Ben Oliver. Ben Oliver's great. He's a great painter. It looks quite. He has this knack of making stuff look 3D. He did the.
Yeah.
Did you see the Suicide Squad specials of All Star Batman?
Yes.
With Harley Quinn with the pin of a thingy on the tongue.
Yes.
And then Batman with a nosebleed, and then Killer Croc. Ben Oliver's awesome. Yeah, he's awesome. David Roach, Des Skin, Des Taylor, Dylan Teague, another huge 2000 AD alumni. Chris Weston and Rob Williams, who was on the team for the recent Suicide Squad rebirth stuff. Yeah. It's chocker. It's going to be really good, and they'll take good carry there as well. It's like there's always something a little bit special going on. Some really cool stuff. The great thing about Ice and why it's so good is because of the atmosphere. It's second to none. Hope to see you there and enjoy.
Definitely.
Any final thoughts, Dan?
No, I'm pretty
happy with the way that went.
Yeah.
See you later, guys.
Take it
Take it easy.